Platform engineering is one of the fastest growing disciplines in software. And if you are an engineer or an engineering leader in 2026, it's probably already shaping your work, whether you realize it or not. So let's talk about what it actually is, where it came from, and why it matters right now. Hey, I'm Adora. I've spent years leading platform engineering teams, and this channel is where I share what I'm learning leading engineers in the AI era. Platform stuff, leadership, the real messy parts of the work. If that sounds like your thing, subscribe and stick around. Platform engineering is when a company builds internal tools and infrastructure for its own engineers, the same way it would build a product for external customers. That second half is the part that matters. Most companies build internal tools as an afterthought. Somebody writes the deployment script, somebody else throws together a Terraform module, another person makes a Slack bot, and over time, you end up with this pile of half maintained internal stuff that nobody really owns. Engineers waste hours every week working around it. Platform engineering says no. We're going to take this seriously. We're going to treat our own engineers as the customer. So we will build them real products. We'll give them those product roadmaps and success metrics, and we can actually measure whether the things we ship make their lives easier or not. That shift about treating engineers as customers is the heart of it. Everything else flows from there. One thing worth saying clearly is that platform engineering isn't necessarily a team that you can create by renaming an existing team. It's a way of working. You can have platform engineering happen inside an infrastructure team, a DevOps team, or a dedicated platform team, right? What makes it platform engineering is the discipline, not necessarily like the name on the door. I'm going to take us a bit down memory lane because to understand why this discipline exists, it helps to know what came before. Even one of my books, I've given this history before. Like in the first or in the early 2000s, developers wrote code, operations ran the servers. Those were two separate teams, right? So when something broke in production, you'd have a meeting where everyone blamed each other for an hour, and it wasn't great. That was literally what came before DevOps. And then around 2009, DevOps showed up. Many of you already know this, to be fair, but for the people that don't, I'm just going to take us down this trip down memory lane. The idea about DevOps was beautiful. So developers should care about operations. Operations should think like developers. So everyone was on the same team, the walls were down. And to be honest, the idea was right. The implementation, however, in most places turned into something very different. So DevOps got translated as developers, you need to know operations now. So suddenly, every engineer is expected to write product code, which they're normally supposed to do. And then they're also supposed to understand Kubernetes, understand Terraform, understand CI CD, understand observability, understand security, networking, all of those things. And the cognitive load got unmanageable. So you'd see senior engineers that are supposed to be spending important time doing other things, spending like half their time debugging things, YAML files, other places, and junior engineers even finding it hard to onboard because the stack was too deep, right? The whole thing that was supposed to make people more effective started making them less effective. Platform engineering is the response. The thinking is you don't need every engineer to be an expert in everything. Frankly, that's not even possible, right? You need a small group of people who really understand the underlying complexity, and their whole job is to abstract it away so that the rest of the org can focus on shipping, they can be more productive, they can build and go from zero to production real quick, and it can be faster. That's what platform engineering is. It's not really a rejection of DevOps, it's the next step, right? DevOps gave us the principle of shared responsibility, which is very important. Platform engineering gives us a real way to deliver on it without burning everybody out. So in practice, what does platform engineering cover? The scope honestly varies, but there are usually four pillars. So the first pillar is infrastructure. This is where you think compute, networking, storage, cloud setup, all of that stuff. The stuff your engineers need to like run software. Platform teams own this so that product engineers don't need to become cloud experts to ship a service, right? The second thing is developer tooling. So things around your build systems, your CI/CD pipelines, testing framework, local development, the stuff that determines whether a new engineer ships code on day 3 or on day 30. This is something that platform engineering teams own as well. Most times they will call them developer experience teams or developer platform teams. The third one is also like shared products capabilities. So this is where authentication, identity, authorization, feature flags, service templates, and very recently for a lot of teams, AI gateways will sit. These are things that every product team needs, but nobody should be rebuilding from scratch, right? So a platform team would own these things and provide these capabilities to the rest of engineering, right? The fourth thing is also like data and the edge. So how data flows through your systems, how it's protected, how it gets to the right place, basically the layer between your user and your application. How a customer splits this up really depends on size and stage. Some would merge infrastructure and tooling together. Some would give data its own org. So that's how you hear things like data platform or data infrastructure team, right? Some keep security separate. The org chart really matters less than the underlying idea. And the underlying idea is if every product team has to figure these things out on their own, the whole company would crawl. Platform engineering is the answer to that. A few things platform engineering is not, because this is very important. It is not a rebrand of operations. If you take an existing ops team, change their title, and call it platform engineering without necessarily changing like how they work, you haven't changed anything. The product thinking, the user research, the roadmaps, measuring adoption, all of those things, that is what makes it platform engineering. So if you just slap the title on an ops team and have them keep doing what they're doing, you haven't really evolved the team or the culture or made it a platform practice. You've just changed the label of the team, right? Platform engineering is also not a dumping ground. And I've seen this a lot where a lot of platform teams are like kitchen sinks, they're catch-alls. And there is this pattern, right? A lot of all these platform teams end up holding all the legacy systems, the random compliance work, anything else that nobody wants to own. As a result of this, focus disappears, morale tanks, and the actual platform stops improving. A good platform team has a clear charter and the permission to say no to work that doesn't necessarily fit what they should be doing. Platform engineering teams are also not a cost center. And this one really matters because when leadership treats platform as overhead, the team gets underfunded. When the team is underfunded, product teams stop trusting it. So they start building their own. You end up with 3 authentication systems, 4 deployment pipelines, and chaos in production. A platform team is one of the highest leverage investments a company can make if you treat it like one. And this is very important. There's also one more because this confusion is everywhere. An internal developer portal is not a platform. So whether you have Backstage or Ports or any of all these tools, regardless of the tools that you use, those are surfaces. The platform is the capabilities behind the surface. So if you buy a portal and you call it platform engineering, it's like you're buying a dashboard and saying you have a car, right? So it's the surface, but you still need to build the capabilities behind that surface to power it and make it good. So, yeah, here's what's different about platform engineering right now in 2026 compared to maybe even like a couple years ago, right? AI has changed the math. We all know that. There's a lot of AI everything going on right now. And when this discipline first got named, the value was straightforward. Abstract complexity away so that engineers can focus on product. The complexity was things like cloud setup, deployment, observability, hard but bounded, right? Now, your engineers are working alongside AI agents. And these AI agents can write code, propose changes, deploy services, and sometimes act on their own inside your systems. So the complexity isn't just infrastructure anymore. It's safety, governance, guardrails around like AI assisted engineering itself. And that changes the questions that platform teams need to answer. How do you set up your systems? So basically, an AI agent can't push a security vulnerability to production. How do you give engineers a supported and sane way to use LLMs in their applications so that every team isn't writing their own integration? How do you track which code came from AI versus a human? And what does that mean for review, testing, and ownership? How do you decide where AI can move fast and where it needs to slow down? These are all platform problems now. These are questions that we need to ask and answer as platform engineering. And this is the part that I really want you to take with you. Platform engineering in 2026 isn't just about developer productivity anymore. It's about being the layer that makes safe, fast AI assisted engineering actually possible at scale. The companies that figure this out are going to move differently than the ones that don't. So that's what platform engineering actually is. Like I've said, it's a discipline, not a team. Internal products for internal users. And it's like the next step after DevOps, not a replacement for it. The work that lets the rest of your engineering org move fast without things falling apart. And in 2026, the layer that decides whether AI in your company becomes a real advantage, becomes a force multiplier, or a real mess. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So if you're a leader trying to figure out whether, your company needs platform engineering, you almost certainly do, if I'm being very honest. The only question is whether you build it on purpose, right? Or stumble into it after enough things break. That's one thing to think about. If you are an engineer wondering whether this is a good place to, grow your career, honestly, I think it is. The work is interesting, the leverage is huge, and the demand isn't going anywhere, at least not anytime soon, right? I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned from it. Thank you so much for watching, and I would see you in my next video. Bye.